Brought to you by DIS, keeping companies connected with cloud-based solutions. Come on, City.
Stuart, good to chat with you as always. Firstly, can I get an update on Bryce Azana? How's he?
Yeah, the good news is that the X-ray doesn't show any crack or fracture, which is positive, but he's still in a little bit of discomfort. So we'll give him every chance to be available for Saturday. He's feeling better each day, so that's a positive sign.
Zelly and Gareth as well. I know they will hopefully be back in training this week.
Yeah, Reece Staunton joined it today. Reece is fine. Gareth did and Zelly did a lot of work. So we're hopeful in the next, as I say, 7 to 10 days that they'll be back in contention. Levi did running on the treadmill. They'll be out on the grass tomorrow. So as I said last week, I think they're always only going to be another couple of weeks maximum. But Reece will be definitely available for Saturday. And it'll be a little bit early for the other three.
Just on that full-back position that Bryce occupied on Tuesday, forget my days, right? Presumably then that would see Tyler come back into contention and take that spot?
Possibly. We have got other alternatives as well, depend what shape we go. But, I thought Tyler did fine again when he came on the other night. So yeah, he'd be one that would come into our mindset. As I say, we'll decide on the formation and what we think will suit us best, how we can go and hopefully hurt Newport, and then we'll take it from there. But yeah, it'll certainly be in the mix naturally.
I meant to ask you this question on Tuesday evening, actually, but just how disruptive is it for you when you go in at the halftime break and you've got an injury that you may not have been expecting? And of course, you can call upon players to bring in, but it must be a little disruptive for you.
Well, yeah, it's part and parcel, and we get to know. But especially when you're a goal down and you're probably looking to bring on your attack-minded players, to have to, put on a defender at half-time is a bit frustrating. And obviously, it just leaves us, to go behind. We've obviously Clark and we've got Curtis and we've got Austin as strikers to come on. So yeah, I think when you have to use one on a defensive one, when it's not tactical, it's frustrating, but happens. It's part of football. You got to get on with it.
Yeah. You mentioned you haven't fully decided how you'll set up and who you'll play for Newport, but what are your initial thoughts on how you may go about challenging a side that are a joint second in the league at the moment?
Yeah, won 5 out of 7. Obviously had a good cup run as well. So they're playing at the top of the game. Won the last 2 games 1-0. So obviously defensively very secure and solid. Don't concede a lot of goals. But it's up to us then to find a way to break them down and take the chances that we create and play on the front foot and just be very, very positive in every game we go into. I've said it countless times, but we always look at opposition. Naturally, we're aware of the strengths and weaknesses, but we only ever pick a side on how we can hurt teams and whether we change the formation or not. There's never been a moment in my career, unless it's been a European tie with Motherwell or going to Rangers or Celtic away from home, that you go with a mindset of how don't we lose this game, and especially at home. So we're fully focused on coming up with a system and a way of playing that hopefully we can create opportunities as always.
I'm right in saying that they've adopted that 3 at the back formation, or 5, however you want to view it. I know people see it in different ways, but what have you made of how they've gone about doing that?
Yeah, they've played it well. Little boy Matty Dolan, say little boy. I mean, obviously he's, I think 5'11", whatever it is. Who used to be at Bradford a few years ago. He's playing in the middle of the defence and likes to start attacks off and come out from the back. 2 big lads next to him. The wing backs get forward. 2 mobile strikers, whoever they pick, and a good choice in midfield. So yeah, it's they've got some good footballers. I think everyone's talking about they're playing a lot more football now this year than last year, but I think that's probably slightly unfair because at this stage, not this stage last year, but when we went to play them, Flinney, who's done a terrific job, was getting under fire from as you do from supporters at certain times because they weren't doing as well as they'd done the previous season when they got to the playoffs. But the amount of injuries they had so many injuries to key players, and plus trying to play football on their field, which was in really poor condition, was difficult. So they're playing, or people perceive, a lot more football. But but they're getting the results, and I think the confidence is running high throughout the group. So it's a good game to look forward to. I think it's one that we believe if we can play in the front foot, as I say, that we can get a positive result from it.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity in itself as well, isn't it? Because if you do get a good result against a side that, yes, early doors, a second in the league, it lays down somewhat a marker for the rest of the league, but also gives you a great deal of belief within the squad, I imagine.
Yeah, probably. To be honest, we just go from game to game. Once you win a game or lose a game or draw a game, you move on, especially now, Saturday, Tuesday. So as you can imagine, as most clubs will do, they'll utilise the squads in the next few weeks without a doubt to freshen things up. And that'll be no different to ourselves. But yeah, obviously winning breeds confidence, but there's no lack of confidence in the group. I've watched the game back from the other night, and I've got to be honest, apart from after the goal, a 10-minute spell after the goal, then we weren't in no trouble really. We put a lot of dangerous balls in and just didn't get in the end of them, or they got good blocks in. A lot more opportunities than you would imagine really. So the way we played, although there were a little bit of sloppiness first half, but I thought second half we were right on top of it. And again, I don't change my belief in that. Over the piece, we were the dominant side, or certainly made enough more opportunities to win the game, and never felt in any danger once we got the equaliser that we would lose.
Yeah, on reflection of that as well, do you have to accept somewhat that Walsall just did well to defend the pressure that you were putting onto them, and you talk about the blocks that they put in, having watched it back myself as well, that they did a lot of that.
Yeah, certainly sure. I look at it back in the first half, Dylan and Bryce both get to dead ball line, put some dangerous balls back. Woody's put a couple of balls in. But listen, you've got to give credit to the opposition sometimes. If you're putting balls in from good areas, as long as you're not putting them in from deep and where you can't really get any opportunities, you can get to dead ball line and pull them back, or get them across the face of the goal, or hang them up back stick. You do all sorts of, as we work in training, all sorts of different quality from wide areas. And then, you look at our best three chances against Harrogate came from long balls from back to front, and Clates and Knowles did really well, and that's where our three best chances against Harrogate came. So you've got to be able to mix it up, have a variety. But if there's a certain area of the opposition team that you think you can get at, then that's what you aim to do.
And you mentioned as well, you weren't too troubled from the defensive point of view, and Anthony O'Connor has been included for the second time in as many team of the weeks, as it were, for his performances. What have you made of what he's done in the last two games?
Yeah, I think he's been solid all season. Obviously, a little bit of a blip down at Forest Green when he gets caught just by a bit of pace from the attacking midfielder of Forest Green, who we'd highlighted. He's not often you get really quick midfield players, and he just caught Anthony out, and obviously brought him down. But other than that, I think he's been solid. I think he's come back as with Pawdy, and been really consistent all season up to now.
And what do you do at the back then with Pawdy, of course, coming back? I know he was on the bench for the game on Tuesday evening, but will you look to try and put him into the starting 11, or do you want to try and keep the defence as much the same as you can do?
Yeah, we look at everything. I'm certainly not going to be discussing on a Thursday prior to game on a Saturday what we're going to be doing, but he's in the contention. Likewise, Reece has trained today and trained really well. And if we go to a back three, but Ben for the last two games has been solid, and his confidence is a little bit more assured now. So it's a nice problem to have. As long as players keep on top of the game, then it's good that a manager's got decisions to make. But Pawdy's trained well today, so as always, it comes into our thoughts.
I just want to get a couple of questions in respect to the COVID climate that we're in. It seems to be the ever developing situation. Mal Benning at Mansfield has tested positive. I don't think he was included in the squad for their game on Tuesday evening, so the last time he'll have played will have been against yourselves. Does that affect you at all? Do you have to do anything further now that you've learned about that information?
No, I've just heard about it there actually, but we followed all the protocols on the day, as did they, and none of their players have shown any symptoms since. But no, I take your point. I think you'll have to look. I think it was David Dunn up at Barrow having to self-isolate. Obviously, Harry Kuehl at Oldham, Mark Lillis and Coxey at Scunthorpe, you know, the coaching staff and management there. So there seems to be a lot more people contracting it now, getting it. But I think the key is with the players is as long as you're doing your social distancing and everything that goes about, if one person does unfortunately get it, and not obviously by his illness, we don't want him to be, ill, but if they do get it, then it don't go through the club. So as long as we keep doing what we're doing, we'll be okay.
Yeah. Does it increase your dialogue at all with the players, or heighten you in any way, shape, or form more so? And I caveat that with the point that of course Wales go into their circuit breaker from this weekend, and Newport coming from South Wales and coming from a COVID affected area. Do you have to just be more aware as a group?
Yeah, always. We've drummed that in from the day one. Obviously, it was relaxing a little bit, wasn't it, over there? But we're back struggling a little bit again, the country now, aren't we? So yeah, we've just got to be wary of that. As I say, I think it'll be most players or most clubs have had the player or a member of staff that have got it and have had to isolate. And I'm sure at some stage, well, not sure, but it won't surprise me at some stage we might have that. But as I said, one or two getting it is different to going through the club. And all you can do is follow the protocol and make sure that doesn't happen.
Cheers, Stuart. Go well.
Yes, thank you.
And the last 3 home games, you quite openly said afterwards that you haven't started as brightly and as fast as you'd like to. And clearly that is what you're telling the players. How frustrating is it for you when you're watching from the sidelines that it isn't quite clicking at home and at the start of the games?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the Harrogate game, definitely, they started better than us. Obviously, Lincoln possibly cut it. But watching the game back there on Saturday, or Tuesday, should I say, we were okay. We started okay. I think the key at the moment, certainly home games, even in all the games we've played, the cup games and that, we've not got as noses ahead. We haven't gone a goal up at home. We've always having to claw it back. Stevenage and obviously the other day there, but it'd be nice to go ahead. But yeah, it's something we're always on about. A good start, positive start. We got that at Mansfield. But that's what you're aiming to. And I think the key is when you do have a good start is scoring when you're on top.
Callum was saying that there's a difference this year, though, that you have gone behind, but against Stevenage, you came back and won the game, and the other night you came back and should have won it in many ways. And that resilience is new this year in some way. It wasn't there last year. It's like the heads dropped if they went behind.
Yeah. Well, we'll see as the season goes on. But at the moment, there seems to be. I've said since we come in, there's a good determination, mentality, if you like, among the group. So yeah, I mean, we don't want to go behind in games. Naturally, we'd like to take the lead, but if we do go behind, we've got to have it in us locker that. As I say to them, and I've always said, once a goal goes in and the referees give it, and there's no VAR, and we're not waiting for that, then we can't do anything about that. It's your mentality there after that. Can we go hit them and get a goal back, not be despondent for 5 or 10 minutes? I thought the other night, as I said, when Walsall scored, just for about 5 minutes after it, they had another half chance. And that's the thing you've got to be wary of, not be despondent. They score a goal, okay, so what? We've got plenty of time to go get another 1 or 2. That's the mindset. It's more a mentality thing, really. And I think if you do go behind, how quickly can you go get one back?
I suppose as well, confidence in the players, and they all seem very confident, not only in their own ability, but in those around them as well.
Yeah. As I said, we've got a decent group. They're all working hard behind the scenes. We've had a couple of little blows already this season, which you're going to get throughout the course. Obviously, the Lincoln game, that was, sore one to take naturally, and the disappointment we had a couple of weeks ago at home. But other than that, all in all, it's been a solid start. There's been some players who've been consistent. There's some that have been very good and then not so good. And there's some who've just not managed to get in yet. So, but it's a healthy enough squad.
And as you've said several times, there's a lot of Saturday, Tuesday games coming up now with not just the league, but other competitions. How much do you have to look ahead and think that player's going to need a rest, or that one, I need to get him in and get him for 90 minutes.
Yeah, certainly it can be the case. But things change in games. You know, I didn't think Clayton would do 3 games in 7-8 days there, you know, but his performance against Mansfield made him, you know, stay in the game for Walsall. But there is certain games where we're going to mix it up, and you look at certain, listen, the most important game's the next one, and we've got to focus on that, whatever. But when the games are, as you say, coming thick and fast, there'll be certain players that'll be more suited to playing against certain teams. You know, they're all playing different systems at the moment. You know, people going with 3 big strong ones at the back, or, you know, 3 up the front, or 2 wide, or whatever it may be. But certain players might have more influence against a different formation. But I think first and foremost, you look at the next game, see the. But what I would say from the other night, when you look at the stats and the data now, which you know, it's a modern game, you've got to take all that into account. We covered actually quite a few more meters than we did against Mansfield, but the high intensity running was almost half, you know, and that sort of tells you that there is going to be a drop off, you know, if you go 3 or 4 games back to back. But some players have got the fitness capacities to do it. The other ones will need freshening up.
Cheers, Stuart. Good luck on Saturday.
Cheers, thank you.
You were saying, Stuart, obviously you're now getting into 2 months into the season. I mean, after such a long break, do you think in a way the team are sort of getting up to speed, if you get what I mean? They're getting sort of that game sharpness, because obviously it was such a long absence, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I'm sure if you ask the players, as I said before, when I do the pre-season, or when I was a player, it took me 4 or 5 games pre-season to get a lot of games, and then 2 or 3 games once you get into the season. So everyone's different, but yeah, there should be. You know, I listened again to the Champions League games the other night, and you don't know if people are just making excuses for them, saying, "Oh, Man City, maybe they're not up to speed yet, or somebody else is not up to speed yet." But you know, they've been in for a while and they're working hard, and I think it comes to a stage now, as you say, Simon, we're 2 months in. You know, we should be beginning to see the best of them now. Yeah.
And you think they also, on the other side of the coin, they've adapted probably to the weird environment that's going to take a while to get your head around, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny enough. I was walking down the touchline with Darryl Clark the other day, and the key is for us. I mean, I missed it so much when I were out, and I'm loving every minute of it. Obviously, when we get disappointing results, not so much. But coming into training, you know, coaching the players, having games to look forward to, I'm relishing every moment of it. But you know, I can imagine that'd be 10 times if we can start getting the supporters in here. You know, he was saying, I think Flinny's made a comment about it. It's going to be like a shell, isn't it? When they come here, used to the coming here with 14,000-15,000 against them. So as much as we're fortunate that we're still playing football and we're still having games to try to go and win, it's still, you know, naturally not the same without any crowd now, without any atmosphere. But it is what it is, and I keep saying we've got to make the best of it and make sure when crowds are allowed in that we're up and about it.
And obviously, you mentioned Flinny there. I mean, he's now had, I think this is his 4th full season he's going into now as a manager. So he's obviously gained quite a lot of experience. You know, he's had quite a lot of exposure. Are you surprised in a way that he's perhaps still at Newport?
Yeah, possibly. As I said, I think it's not cycles, but you can go up and down. And I remember last year, just prior to him playing him, or in fact, I don't even think I'd come in at Bradford, and he was getting a little bit of criticism, or you know, from outward people who don't know what's going on at the club. But then when you actually looked at the injuries they had, you know, he was struggling to get his best players out on park, and that has a big effect. But I think he obviously prior to that he was linked with a couple when they got to the playoffs. But he gets his head down, works hard, and he's done a really good job at Newport. I'm sure they're delighted to still have him. And obviously added to this season's good cup run, brings him more exposure. And he was a good professional when he was a player, a winner, and I'm sure he's taken that into his management. As you know, you can tell he's very thorough in everything he does.
And obviously, you managed him. I mean, he was never sort of shy in having an opinion. I mean, was he always sort of a managerial type? Could you sort of see that in him?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having opinions. You know, and being sort of a bit of a leadership in that. You know, you need leaders. You know, we can't say, "Oh, don't like him having an opinion," telling him to shut up when we're actually crying out for leaders. So, yeah, it was. He played with his heart on his sleeve. He was a good type. Ones that you'd want in your dressing room. Could moan a bit, but hey, You know, the greatest players moan a lot, but you always knew what you're getting from him. As a manager, as a coach, you could trust him. Whatever you asked him to do, you trust him. He might not always be an 8 out of 10, but you trust him to give everything he's got on the park, and you know that's a good, especially at this level. You know, if you trust people to go out and like be at it and not get affected by other things, or you know, if it's not the type of perfect pitch or nice weather or whatever, but you know, you can send Flinney out in a t-shirt and pouring down rain, you get the same performance from him.
And again, like yourself, he's got that affiliation with the club as well, which is, you know, I think supporters like to see, and probably players buy into that, don't they? Because they can sort of see that connection.
Yeah. As I said, I know I've spoken to him a couple of times this season. I know when obviously COVID struck, we were all, released a lot of players, and I remember him, but they had to, and then they got the boy Bennett back, didn't they? They got him, and they've made a couple of decent signs. But I think they've got a solid nucleus of players that have been there for a few years now, and that helps, immensely. You saw that with Harrogate the other night. If you can build a squad, and have most of your key elements still with you for a couple of seasons, you can then bed down, and people buy into what you're doing. But you've certainly done a really good job.
Brought to you by DIS, keeping companies connected with cloud-based solutions. Come on, City!